سيداتي سادتي، من فضلكم رحبوا معنا بالمدير التنفيذي ليس2 ديجيتال عمار بكار، وضيفه مؤسس ورئيس مجلس الإدارة والرئيس التنفيذي لأوداسيتي سيباستيان ثرون.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome CEO Yes2 Digital Ammar Bakkar and his guest Sebastian Thrun, Chairman and CEO Udacity.
صبحكم الله بالخير جميعا، وتحية لكم حضور هنا والذين يتابعوننا عبر البث المباشر. بدي أن أشكر مسك على هذه المبادرة الرائعة حقيقة، وإحضار هذا الكم من الضيوف الذين نقابلهم ربما لأول مرة. ضيفي حقيقة شخصية مميزة، هو المؤسس والرئيس التنفيذي ليوداسيتي، وهي منصة تعليمية سنتحدث عنها وتعتبر منصة رائدة من نوعها. هو أيضا المؤسس لجوجل إكس التي تمثل ذراع جوجل لتكنولوجيا المستقبل. هو أيضا أستاذ باحث في جامعة ستانفورد، وأهم من ذلك كله في رأيي هو كما يسمى في أمريكا الأب الروحي للسيارات ذاتية القيادة التي ربما تمثل مستقبل السيارات في العقود القادمة. هو أيضا قاد فريق لسباق السيارات ذاتية القيادة من جامعة ستانفورد وفازوا بالبطولة، وأعتقد إن شاء الله سيكون الحديث معه مشوقا. وبعد أن ننتهي من بعض الأسئلة سأسعد باستقبال أسئلتكم وطرحها عليه. Welcome to our platform, Mr. Sebastian. So we want to talk about how technology is disrupting different parts of our lives, different industries, government operations, etc. What are the drivers behind such disruption? Why technology is changing our lives so quickly? What is it, these variables that making this happen? Is it because it makes a lot of money or what?
That's a great question. If you look at technology, it's remarkable that almost anything interesting that we appreciate today, from airplanes to smartphones, has been invented in the last 150 years. And that's important because humanity is so much older. We are 50,000 years old. But only the last 150 years or 200 years have given us really amazing technology. If you extrapolate into the future, I would argue the next 150 years will be even more extreme, and we're going to increase the pace of invention and technology. In fact, I would like to go as far as thinking that only 1% of interesting inventions have been made so far, and 99% have not. So things we haven't invented yet, for example, are the cure of all diseases, are the ability to live 10 times as long, is fusion as a new energy source, which I think we will invent, to be honest, and many other things, flying cars. These things will all come. Now, if you look at the relationship of technology and business, I would argue that most businesses are ready for disruption. And from banking to government to insurance companies to taxi companies, self-driving cars, there's a picture up there of our work at Google. So all these things will be reshaped by technology, and it's important, I think, for anybody to be on top of it.
But when technology basically is increasing productivity, lowering the usage of human resources in some cases, right? Do you think it applies for a country like Saudi Arabia, where we're still struggling with making jobs available for people, for young generation, for new graduates?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to be an optimist. I mean, in the country where I'm from, in Europe, in Germany, some like 300-400 years ago, almost all of us worked in agriculture and were plowing fields, and it wasn't much different here. And then someone invented the steam engine and the mechanical plow and so on. We moved into factories, and after the factory time, people invented robots for factories, and we moved into offices. So in the United States, 75% of us are working in offices today. And if you go back 400 years, it would have looked like, oh my God, if someone just invents a very strong muscle, then we're all going to be unemployed. But the reality has been the opposite. We've all gotten much more employed, and we've all been able to unfold much more creativity as a result. So for me, the opportunity exists that we become much more creative, that we can build many more things, we can advance society much faster. But it does require that we stay on top of things. We can't be complacent, we can't do business as usual, and we can't be lagging behind in education, in my opinion.
All right. And a lot of, when I talk about Saudi Arabia, for example, a lot of leaders of government organizations, ministers, for example, CEOs, even influencers within different sectors of industries, they always have this question when they see the technology happening, these changes, these advances, social media even. What would be your advice, being so close to the technology of future? What would be your advice, your recommendations to them? How do they deal with disruption?
I mean, I love your 2030 plan. It's great to see the kingdom be so engaged in forward-looking thinking, including this wonderful symposium. I don't think that oil as the #1 form of revenue is extremely sustainable in a new age where technology becomes more important. So I think anything you can do to diversify, to get your youth involved in new technologies is good for you. Just to give you kind of a freaking example, for many, many years I ran the Google self-driving car project. In fact, I funded Google X, and the Google self-driving car project is kind of my child. And one of the interesting insights pertains to the advancement of driving capabilities versus human learning. And here's how it goes. Most of you in this part of the podium drive cars, or are able to drive cars. And when you make a driving mistake and cause maybe an accident, which I'm sure some of you have done, so have I, you will learn from it, but nobody else does. When a Google car makes a mistake, it learns from it, and so do all the other cars, including all future unborn cars. And that means that the robotic cars we're building at Google advance faster than humans can advance. They've now gotten to the point where they surpassed human driving capabilities, so they drive by and large better than humans can drive. We've also seen other fields being disrupted. Most recently we saw a Google Go program play the world's best Go players in the game of Go. And the advances of machines will begin to outpace the advances of human capabilities. And that means to us we have to redefine our relationship with machines, and we have to bring them into our lives very differently from the way it did in the past. For me, the revolution taking place right now, the artificial intelligence revolution, is akin of the agricultural revolution, where back in the day we gave ourselves stronger muscles. Now we can give ourselves a stronger brain.
So your advice basically is not to ignore these changes. One main question is basically, even when you mentioned the 2030, one of the main questions of people about preparing people for these changes, for this vision, what is called the jobs of the future. Do you think it's easy to be done? Are we ready? Do we need to disrupt the education system? Do we need different schooling system? How do you see this?
Well, you saw the opening video, and my company, Udacity, we're extremely proud to have an agreement with the MiSK Foundation to bring Silicon Valley bleeding-edge education in areas like mobile programming and data science and machine learning to the kingdom. I'm very happy about this. The education system is no exception to disruption, in my opinion. It's been designed and built hundreds of years ago, when the only technology to reach students at the same time involved being in the same physical classroom and using our physical voice. That is the predominant way of delivering education today. And because it's hard to get students into classrooms, we often think of education as kind of a once-in-a-lifetime experience that you do it at young ages. The future will be very different. In the future, we will use digital technologies to broadcast education. That's what Udacity does. We record a lot. We have a lot of education that you can do at your own pace. It'll be lifelong, which means a single education will be insufficient. And most importantly, we will be able to democratize education. If you look at the world's best education as it exists today, you have to go to fantastic universities. It's incredibly hard to get in. They're very restrictive, accept very few students. What we can do with digital media is make the same quality of education available to everybody, no matter where you live, how old you are, what your gender is, what your ethnicity is. And that's going to be the big innovation. That means everybody will have the same chance to make a contribution to the world and partake in the revolution of technology.
Very nice. And because you spoke about Udacity, Udacity is more like based on the concept of on-demand education. Do you think this is the future of education? I mean, I understand that for courses, online courses, but do you think schools in the future will be on demand? Should they be on demand?
I think schools should be on demand. I mean, if you look at even K-12 education, it kind of makes no sense to tell the kids it's Tuesday morning and now we're going to learn division, and it's Wednesday morning, we're going to learn now decimals. If you look at our own learning, as we are in the audience, we don't want to be robots that have to learn exactly the same fact at the same time. We all have a good week, and we have a bad week, we have a curious week, and we have maybe some home problems. And we love to adapt our learning to our own pace. Why can't we do the same with kids? So I think the key of education here is to really unslave our students, our learners, from this teacher or professor dictated cadence of learning, and let them go at their own pace. And when they go at their own pace, I can tell you, I have an 8-year-old kid, and one of his best friends is 7 years old, and he's doing 8th grade math. He doesn't doing math for 15-year-olds as a 7-year-old, and the reason is, it turns out to be a highly educated, highly gifted kid, and is allowed to go on their own pace. In most schools, we don't do this yet, so I think we have to really rethink education and really free ourselves of the old medium and really move into the digital age.
One of the courses on Udacity, which was very interesting to me, was artificial intelligence engineering.
Correct.
Do you think what is it about artificial engineering that is making it such a hot topic these days? And do you think it represents the future of technology?
Well, artificial intelligence, as I mentioned, is going through a major revolution right now. And the Google self-driving car drives better than you and I can drive. And many other areas are being changed right now. So lawyers, for example, there's now machine learning systems that can do better legal document discovery or contract drafting than lawyers can do. In the medical space, we now have machine learning radiologists. There's now results that show you can find cancer more accurately using cell phones than human dermatologists can do this. And that's just the beginning. What we find is in artificial intelligence and machine learning is that almost anything repetitive that we do, even as office workers, can be augmented or replaced by machine learning. And the basic formula is very similar, simple. We can now program computers by data, by experiences. The same way we let people learn from experiences, we're now at a point where we can collect massive amounts of data, feed them into a computer program, and let the computer find its own rules. And because computers can digest 10, 100, 1,000,000 times as many data points as people ever can, if you give them just enough data, they can surpass human capabilities. And that's a really new thing, which means for us as a society, almost any office work today is repetitive and it's boring and it's dull, and most of these jobs will be replaced.
Very nice. And you talked about self-driving cars, and they call you often the father of self-driving cars. Do we really need these billions with these billions invested in self-driving cars? Do we really need them? Are they?
Well, I'm happy to toss the question back at you, given that half of your adult population is excluded from the operation of motor vehicles today. So perhaps there's an opportunity here. I see some applause from this direction over there to really empower your women. But on top of it, let me just give you some statistics. We lose about 1.2 million people in traffic accidents every year in this world, and many of them in the developing world. And the reason why we have that many deaths in traffic is because it's very hard to pay attention. Most of the deaths are caused by people not paying attention, like 95% or so. So we could probably, if we had a self-driving car, self-driving cars don't text, they don't sleep, they're not fatigued. Of course, if I go to back America, I would joke that they're not drunk. Of course, no one drives drunk in Saudi Arabia, which is kind of amazing. So they have a constitution to make driving much safer. And then on top of it, I mean, just yesterday I spent a good hour in a traffic jam here in Riyadh. You all know this. In America, the average time spent in car commute is about an hour a day, which is quite a bit of your time that could be gained back. The most important change, however, will be when self-driving cars will become taxis, like Didis or Ubers or Lyfts. When you go to your phone and say, I need a car right now, and magically this car pulls up in front of you, and you hop in, and it delivers you to where you want to go and parks itself, or even better, goes to the next customer. When that happens, then the number of cars that we need are much smaller. In the United States, the average utilization per car is about 3%, which means the car is moving about 3% of its time, and it's parked 97%. And the parking of car is a huge problem. Just go to any city in the world and look at the number of parked cars you can find. So in the future, there might not be any parked cars anymore. They might just zip around and transport us.
So you think we have hope here in Riyadh to have self-driving cars with all the bad drivers around?
Well, so Udacity, my company, launched a program. We call it a nano-degree program. It's a degree kind of program on self-driving cars. We had 13,000 applicants, including some from Saudi Arabia. We admitted about 5,000, so we are now the single biggest educator for self-driving cars in the future. In fact, if you have a booming or growing self-driving car industry, you might care about this. We do the same for machine learning, artificial intelligence, Android, iOS, and so on. And we're now building an entire open source self-driving cloud platform at Udacity, and just yesterday saw our first videos. We're driving in public traffic every day. By crowdsourcing software and by opening up education, I think we can rapidly advance the progress in society. So our mission, as you know, is to democratize education. So we hope to move faster.
At which year do you think we will see self-driven cars, commercial self-driven cars?
Soon. I know that for a fact that the Google technology has basically surpassed human driving capabilities. So the technology part is mostly solved. There's obviously business issues, and then there's down-costing issues to make it affordable. And that's underway. So in the next 5 or so years, I hope to see them around the world, including here in Riyadh.
I will take some questions.
Okay.
أي سؤال تحبه للسيد سيباستيان ثرون، سواء في الأشياء اللي تحدث عنها أو في قضايا تكنولوجيا المستقبل بشكل عام. تفضل.
My name is Mohammed Alukiri. I'm from Takaful. خليني أتكلم بالعربي وأحسن. أنا عندي سؤال على حدود الذكاء الاصطناعي ال AI والتحدي والتهديد الذي يمثله الجنس البشري. الآن ستيفن هوكينج يتحدث عن أنه الذكاء الاصطناعي سيولد ذكاء كبير في الكمبيوتر، وبالتالي هناك تهديد من يعني على الجنس البشري من هذا النوع، خاصة إذا تولد معه قابلية على إنتاج الأجهزة الإلكترونية والكمبيوتر. فما هو رأيكم في هذا المجال؟
جميل. So he's asking about artificial intelligence. Is it a threat to the role of human capacity, to our brains and our human intelligence? As he quotes some saying about this and how the advance of artificial intelligence will make it less important to have our own human intelligence.
I would argue that technology has always turned us into superhumans in the past, right? So today, I can talk to my family in California from Saudi Arabia. I can fly across the Atlantic home in about 16 hours of time. These are all things that make me superhuman. I would argue that artificial intelligence will make us superhuman mentally. We will remember everything. We know everything. We'll be able to share experiences and insights much faster than ever before. So I don't think we're going to be left behind. I think what we're going to do is we're going to give us absolutely superhuman capacities. And as a result, we'll be much more creative as a society. Now, that important, of course, requires all of us to be active participants. We can't just sit on the sidelines and wait for it to happen. We have to get on top of technology and play an active role. But I'm a very optimistic person. Just the same way a farmer has become 1,000 times as effective in plowing fields through agricultural machines, but it hasn't made the farmer obsolete. It's just become superhuman in our ability to farm.
All right. Number one.
Assalamu alaikum. I am Arwa Suela. I'm a student, computer science student. I have a question. Do you think these such complex technologies as artificial intelligence and new difficult technology, we can learn it by online course as Udacity?
Yes.
I think we need virtual labs, like we can interact with that lab online, so we can learn better.
Well, we are super excited that we're opening a few classrooms here in Riyadh, and we hope to teach 2,500 students by the end of next year in those areas. And I can tell you it's a personal mission of mine. I've always wanted to bring our education to everybody in the world, and I believe there's geographies that are more informed, like Boston and Massachusetts, and geographies where I think people are every bit as smart and as ambitious as people around Stanford, but don't have the same access. Whether online is the final solution, I would argue let's try these things out and let's experiment. One of the things we do in Silicon Valley a lot is very rapid experimentation, maybe failing and then learning from those and improving. Udacity as a company has massively improved over the 5 years that we're old. And now we get typically graduation rates and course finishing rates north of 60, 70, or 80%. So I'm really looking forward to engaging with the Kingdom, engaging with the MiSK Foundation, trying out to bring top-notch artificial intelligence, machine learning, and mobile data science and Android education to the Kingdom. And then hopefully it can help me learn and make it better so that it becomes more effective. Our goal is to democratize education. Our mission is to give every person on the planet the same chance when it comes to making technology contributions.
Drawing on her question, what are the tools that Udacity would use to transfer such, as she said, complex knowledge? I mean, in universities, there are labs, you can touch technology, you can try it, you have a teacher who's teaching you how to do things. How do you do this online?
When you engage in a Udacity class, what you find is you do a lot of projects. You do a relatively little listening, and you mostly do something with your hands, you program computers. The equivalent of a lab in artificial intelligence is a computer, so you program a computer to be smart and do machine learning projects. And you will have mentors around the world that assists you in your progress. They give you feedback to your work. Typically, when you submit a homework assignment within an hour, you get some feedback that mentor you when you get stuck. It feels very much like a one-on-one classroom, like a tutor instructing you, but at scale. And the reason why we do a lot of project work is we firmly believe that you don't learn much by listening to lectures. You don't lose weight by watching somebody else exercise. You don't learn that much by having a professor profess. The professor who lectures is for us a 19th century solution to a 21st century problem. But the real learning takes place by doing. So I would invite everybody and all your family and your employees and what have you to try it out and give it a try and see if you like this style of learning.
All right, very nice. Number two.
Morning. Can you hear me? Oh, okay. My name is Imad. I represent GE Healthcare at the State of Qatar. First, I want to thank you on behalf of my generation for everything that you guys have done. Google, Udacity. I think the world would be a much different place if it's not for you guys, so thank you.
Thank you.
My question regarding self-driving cars. Insurance, regulatories, how can you see the implementation or the deployment for self-driving cars in society where people will be divided? I want to drive my own car versus a self-driving car right next to me. The car is smart enough to detect, but what if you're surrounded with DUIs and many other, texting people and others? I want to just take a leap into the future, see what's the plan for implementation, if you don't mind.
Well, first of all, Thanks for asking. GE is a very close partner of Udacity in the United States, both in curriculum development and also in hiring our graduates. So thanks for doing this. In the self-driving car world, what we decided was that we wanted to build cars that require no environmental modification and that work really well, even if all the cars around you are driven by people. And what we find is we made the self-driving car at Google a defensive car, a car that watches out for other traffic, and it by and large makes the traffic around it safer. Now, there will be a time when the majority of cars on the road will be self-driving, and that empowers us to do tricks you could never do with manual driving. For example, one of the things we're looking into is convoying, how to make the cars drive very close together so they use less space on the highway. But that's down the road 15, 20 years from now when the majority of cars are self-driven, so it's going to be a while out.
I will take, we are out of time, I'll take a final question. Here, number one.
Hi, my name is Lana, I'm from Bahrain. I'm a huge fan of online learning. I'm a self-taught web developer. My question is, well actually I'm working on a project that is aimed at educating people in the region to do online development and education in general. But the thing is that we lack a lot of Arabic content, and it makes it a little bit difficult for the more regional people to engage and get started. What would your advice be to someone that is trying to set up such a project? And if we were to choose, because we were thinking that we could initially start with question banks and build momentum, and then maybe go on to video and practical tutorials. Right. What would your advice be to someone like me that is trying to bring this sort of thing to the region?
Lana, first of all, thanks for your comment, and I'm excited to see that you're a self-taught web developer. That's so great, honestly. In this day and age, every young person can be as good an Android developer, web developer, machine learning researcher as anybody I teach at Stanford. I think it's a fantastic opportunity right now to go into the Arab world. Our very first collaboration with MiSK is English only, but as we unfold this and this works, our plan is to translate and localize. We've done some translation with Google and the Egyptian government in Egypt, so several of our courses are available online in Arabic. But given the need of the Arabic population, we are way behind. What's my advice? I think anything you put online, on YouTube or what have you, is good. And there's many sites that organize information. Just be part of the movement, not just consume education, but offer education. And let 1,000 flowers bloom. I think the need for education is so important. My closing sentence is, there's this old Chinese saying, if you catch a man or a woman a fish, he or she has dinner for one night. But if you teach him or her to fish, they have dinner for the rest of their lives. And that's what we're after, really transformational changes in education. Thank you.
هذا ختام هذا السيشن وشكرا جزيلا لكم. Thank you very much, Mr. Sebastian.
Thank you.
Thank you.